Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you to our month of May Clarity of Mind through Mindfulness session. Today, our topic is Buddha's guidance for lay people, Dīghajānu Sutra, which is another chapter from Bhikkhu Bodhi's book, In the Buddha's Words. With great respect, I'd like to welcome Most Venerable Panadure Chandaratana Thero to commence today's session. Theruwan Sarnai Bante.
Yeah, Thero Sannai. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm also joining from Kalalgoda today, and
Okay.
several yogis from Kalalgoda also joining today. And just before the beginning of our session, let's us spend few minutes in my guided sitting. So let's relax ourselves, calm down, and just to spend few minutes in establishing mindfulness within the body, and keep your head straight, neck straight, shoulders relaxed, arms resting, upper half of the body straight, and eyes gently closed. So basically, once we close our eyes, we feel like alone, even though there may be various things outside. So we are very much like connected with ourselves, being with ourselves. And we can feel the body. This body is breathing. And as we breathing in, the abdomen comes forward. As we breathe out, abdomen returns back. And similarly, the blood circulation happens, heart vibration happens, here and there, little aches and pains we can probably feel. So this is a living body. So being with this living body, you can feel so many things. So now we are recognizing them, how the body is being felt. So let's keep our attention directly at the nostril. And we are trying to recognize each in-breath, each out-breath. So during this process, we are not supposed to think, rather mindfully aware how in-breath happens, how out-breath happens. As much as possible, keeping the mind very quiet, not thinking about the past, not enjoying any memories, or not thinking about the future, not planning, simplifying our attention only to this present moment. Present moment also, the attention is simply to a very neutral object like this breath, and we are doing it for purpose. Purposely, we are paying attention to the in-breath. Purposely, we are paying attention to the out-breath. So kind of an effortful establishment of mindfulness at the beginning, because otherwise mind might get distracted. So we are using the breathing as an anchor to this wandering mind. Calm down ourselves, relax ourselves, nothing much to do. Simply to be with the breath with a joyful attitude. No responsibilities, no much regrets about the past, no plans about the future, just being contented in the present moment and trying to figure out what's happening at the nostril and fully aware of each in breath, each out breath. And if you are capable of doing it properly, successfully, probably we can introduce some clear comprehension into the picture, trying to recognize the beginning, the middle, the end of in-breath, trying to recognize the gap between in-breath and out-breath, and then the beginning, middle, end of the out-breath, and trying to recognize the gap between out-breath and in-breath. So basically, clearly comprehending the whole cycle of breathing in a very calm, relaxed, attentive manner. We are doing a kind of an examination, very close examination. So as we are further and further refining our attention, probably we can recognize from which nostril the in-breath happens, from which nostril the out-breath happens, where is it touching, or compared to the in-breath, whether the out-breath is warm or cool. So these kind of subtle aspects now we are closely examining, keeping the mind fairly quiet, very balanced. Okay, so we are going to start the Dhamma sermon. So let me share the screen again. Hope you can see the screen.
Yes, Bhante, we can see the screen.
Right. So as Shalika mentioned, today we are going to discuss another beautiful sutta and particularly relevant to the lay people. And this is also I have selected from the book by Bhikkhu Bodhi in the Buddha's words. And basically in that book, Bhikkhu Bodhi has selected various suttas. Those are more relevant to our life and taking from different perspectives. And this particular one is particularly relevant to our lay life. And if we consider the kind of an introduction, so Buddha was dwelling with the Kolya area, which was governed by the Kolya. And then that particular town is called Kakkarapatta. And the main thing was one gentleman called Dīghajānu, and he is asking from the Buddha a very valid question: how lay people can find happiness. And he is a lay person, and he wants to understand from Buddha if these lay people who are quite active, quite busy, and family centered, and they have various business, and how they are going to have a happy life in this life as well as the next. Venerable Sir teach us the Dhamma that leads to welfare and happiness in this life and the next. So sometimes people are only concerned about this life, but this Dīghajānu is a wise person, and he knows there's a future life as well, and I should do something to make it more comfortable. So what can I do right now to make the future life a comfortable one, and also the current life, the present life, more a comfortable one, a happy one? It's a very, very valid question. And Buddha's response actually has 8 principles: 4 representing the present life, 4 for future life. So there are 8 aspects altogether, and one has to pay attention to them, one has to sort of concern about them, develop them, act according to them. All these 8 factors, all 8 principles in the current life. So those will lead to a very pleasant, happy life in the present, as well as since you have done certain areas which are more contributing towards the future life as well, and that therefore you'll be having a fairly fortunate future life as well. So let's see what are the things that Buddha is promoting, discussing. And number 1, so Buddha mentioned, so in order to have a fairly good present life, which has to be with effort, so you have to be diligent, you have to work hard in a way, being diligent and skillful in one's work. So quite obvious. So if you are spending time, wasting time simply talking and gossiping, and nowadays playing video games and enjoying too long in the YouTube with Facebook, this and that. So basically we are fairly wasting our time, not diligently, skillfully involving with our profession, maybe with whatever the duty what we are assigned to do. So we have to know exactly what is our responsibility, and what is the task, what is the job assigned, and that has to be done very well with persistent effort. Because whatever the task has various related challenges, difficulties, obstacles, and one has to be upright, one has to be effortful in order to overcome them. And you have to investigate proper methods. There may be different ways to implement whatever the task assigned to you, and you have to investigate what are the available methods to implement, and then probably you have to compare them and recognize the best approach. And maybe the task has to be fairly organized. Then okay, at this particular phase I am going to this, I am implementing this, then in the next phase I am going to implement this part. Okay, the last phase, say I'm going to implement this part. So likewise you do a little bit of organization. And then another interesting thing with the highlight here is, with lot of effort you earn the whatever your wage. It is not through stealing and many different kinds of deceitful activities, cheating, etc. Rather you do it properly, honestly, and the term earning by the sweat of one's brow. So then you know that you are not owed to anyone. So the whatever the money, whatever the wage, whatever the salary you earn, maybe daily or at the end of the month. So you know that you are not owed to anyone. Rather, you spend fair amount of time. You have contributed your energy. You have contributed from your, say, skills, and you work hard, and probably you coordinated with others. Certain skillful activities were conducted, and you fulfill some activity. For that, you get some remuneration. So then you are not any kind of having any regret about how you get it. Rather, you righteously earn what you have gained. So this kind of a feeling that I am not in debt to anyone, I am not owed to anyone, and whatever the money, whatever the salary, the wage I earned today is properly earned, righteously earned. So this kind of a very beautiful, quite righteous attitude, even in our daily activities, even in our office activities, work activities. So emphasize some kind of a very honest contribution coming from our side, and that also coming with some persistent effort. It's a kind of persistent effort, not that you start doing something with effortfully and in the middle or in the end you give it up. Rather, you are maintaining the effort till the task is well done. So basically, the idea is very much like you're maintaining a persistent effort, earning by the sweat of one's brow. So you know that you have contributed. So this first aspect is therefore called Utthana Sampada, which is quite relevant to the present life. And then what we call what you have earned has to be well protected, Arakka Sampada. Because there are some instances that probably the floods, maybe the fire, and maybe various kinds of other, say, natural disasters. So there could be some harm can come to the whatever the wealth that we have righteously earned. So you have to look after it. You have to protect it. So where you are going to deposit, where you are going to invest. Say, how are you going to protect whatever you have earned? If you have buy something from what you have earned, so how you are protecting it? So it is not a kind of a negligent life, rather you are concerned about what you have earned. So kind of a responsible stewardship. Say you are earning righteously, effortfully, working hard. And not only that, once you earn something, you protect it. You take care of it. You look after it. You are not in a careless manner you handle it. Rather, you carefully keep it, handle it. So that part, Arakka Sampada, the protection aspect. And then another aspect Buddha emphasize is the good friendship, Kalyana Mittata, associating with people of faith, virtue, generosity, and wisdom. So these are, in a way, the spiritual faculties, and we'll see how they are contributing towards the future life as well. And there are people who are with developed faith. So they are faithful to the Buddha, to the Dhamma, to the Sangha, and they are maintaining a fairly trustworthy life. They are quite confident, and probably they are skillful in their whole activities. So likewise, we can get some example from such people, and time to time, probably we can visit them and get some advice to make ourselves proper. So likewise, the correct association, associating with people, proper people, true people, and we too trying to emulate their qualities, and we are learning from them. It is not kind of a superficial association and then neglecting. Rather, we are trying to learn from them. We are trying to get an example so that we too emulate their good qualities. And basically, this is quite relevant to the spiritual side, because you know that in the spiritual growth, Buddha mentioned this whole spiritual path is based on Kalyana Mittata. So the association with good people, true people, faithful, virtuous, generous, wise people, actually a blessing to our life. So we can't say that any of us have come to this level, whatever the present time, also without their association, without their guidance. Sometimes we may be using their resources, sometimes we may be reading their a book, maybe listening to their advice, even sometimes they don't know. So likewise in today's say technical advancement, say for example, if we consider the Dhamma, so Dhamma sermons are there, Dhamma books are there, and those are readily available. The owners sometimes even don't know that others are making use of them. Many Dhamma sermons are available, Dhamma books are available, so people can acquire them, listen to them, study them, correct themselves. So many facilities are there. But during the Buddha's time, so those facilities were not there. So basically, one has to reach that particular person. So if you have to listen to the Buddha, you have to approach the Buddha. And when he was preaching, you have to listen to him. So kind of the direct association is necessary. But nowadays, even through the media, if we are properly using it, we can get some kind of an advice, some kind of a guidance, and some kind of a spiritual friendship, even through the technology. But anyway, we are learning. Anyway, we are getting some example. We are trying to emulate good qualities. So Buddha being the best good friend, and we are slowly maturing ourselves by taking such example. Now, say for example, when we are practicing Buddha Anusati, so we are trying to very much like emulate the good qualities of the Buddha. So reflecting about the Buddha's qualities, so we are slowly emulating his good qualities. So therefore, this good friendship is a must to have a proper good life in the present life. Actually, that will contribute towards the future life as well. But anyway, uh, if we consider the present life, so this good friendship will help us even we are not in a good position, we may be in a trouble. So these good friends may help us. So if we need an advice, they may help us. If we are financially troubled, then probably they may help us. So if we are spiritually down, then probably they help us to uplift ourselves. So likewise, there are many areas. So the other good friends can help us. So having good friendship is a must to have a good present life. So this is something Buddha emphasize as the third aspect that one has to have in order to have a kind of a comfortable present life. Then the other one is also very important, kind of a balanced living, samajivikata. So basically, here we are talking even about the financial aspects. Assume that we have earned something. How are we using it? Are we doing some kind of an extravagance? So we don't know how to manage it. So we are our expenditure and the earnings are not well balanced. If we are extravagantly using it, then ultimately we bankrupt, we end up with being debt to maybe a bank, to a person. So then we are in trouble. So we have to know exactly how to spend based on how much we earn. So therefore, knowing the income and expenses, balancing it properly is another area that we have to look into when we are particularly considering the lay life. And you know exactly what these are the priorities to which I have to spend this time. Okay, this month I have earned this much. So what are the priorities? So to which area that I have to spend? And probably to which area I can spend maybe less. So likewise, we have to do a proper analysis so that your expenses are well balanced with the income. And also another extreme also one has to avoid, so that is the miserliness. One possibility is that more if you are too much concerned and if you are kind of becoming stingy, then that is also going to another extreme. So you earn money, but you are not even spending for your own benefit. You are not spending your own family benefit. So you are not properly treating your children, you are not spending your money for their education, whatever, but you are simply earning, but not properly spending. And you don't enjoy how another person, your children, your wife, your husband, whoever is getting the benefit of your effort. So you don't have that kind of a capacity. You simply earn and you're simply keeping for yourself. And sometimes you in yourself don't have the time to enjoy, and things are, piling up, but never being used by yourself and your loved ones and your friends. So basically, a life which is also not balanced. Such life is also not balanced. So the income and the expenses have to be balanced. So we are earning to spend properly for proper uh, say means, for proper things. Maybe your family activities, maybe your own welfare, for your health activities. So many things are there for you to spend. So rather than maintaining kind of a miserliness or miserly attitude, now you are very much like having a balance. You know exactly how much I earn and how much I have to spend and to which I am going to spend this month's salary or this day's salary, to which I am going to spend. And another four areas, very important areas that Buddha highlight here, that if we involve in those four areas, so those may cause to drain what we earn. So this is talking about from the point of view of a layman. So if he's into womanizing, then he spend all his money for this kind of an activity. Ultimately, for his own family, he don't have money. So if one is into the womanizing, and on the other hand, the drunkenness. So you are spending fair amount of time for alcohol, and so that there may be people who are getting advantage of you because you are simply spending your money for alcohol. So the drunkenness is another area which drain the money, and gambling. And nowadays, these things are becoming more and more uh, even established, and even the government sometimes encourage. So therefore, it go against the today's economic terms. But Buddha basically knew the pitfalls in these areas. Maybe gambling, maybe drunkenness, womanizing, bad company. Now, all these things are in a way sometimes connected. So once you are with a bad company, probably that other person may drag you towards gambling, drag you towards drunkenness, drag you towards womanizing. So all these things are there. So bad company is another drain, because it will lead to a complete bankruptcy, complete destruction of your life. So these four items, four areas, Buddha highlights as the areas which are to be avoided. Avoid the four drains. Now, these are the four things actually he particularly highlight for the well-being of the present life. And now we can get into the attributes that he talked for the future life. But this doesn't mean that it only give good results in the future life. But these four factors, what we are going to discuss now, actually has a fair contribution to the present life as well. But it has an impact which will take only not only to the present life, even to the future life. Now, say for example, if we consider the previous ones, say for example, the money that we earn. Say you are spending fair amount of effort and you earn some money, but you can't take it to the future life. So you have to properly spend, and you take care of that, you protect it, and then you can make your life more comfortable in the present life. But you can't take that money or whatever the deposits to the future life. But if we consider the items that we are considering now, those are more spiritual. Actually, it has a fair contribution to the future life as well. So, starting with the faith, starting with Saddha. So, having faith on Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and maybe about the precepts, and having that kind of a spiritual quality, and basically kind of a clear confidence about the Buddha Dhamma Sangha makes you takes you to another level. Now, not you are merely materialistic, rather you are little concerned about the spiritual aspects, and your mind become kind of inclined towards the Buddha. As I mentioned, then you are trying to emulate the good qualities of the Buddha, and you may be investigating his teaching. So why this is mentioned like this? So it is not that we know everything. Rather, there are many areas that we don't know. So we become more humble and we want to know further about our life, maybe about the future life. How did I get this kind of a life today? So, what are the causes and how this thinking might be happening? So, likewise, there are other aspects that one can pay attention, and therefore, having some example, having some guidance from the Buddha Dhamma Sangha makes our life more comfortable and gives us another dimension to our life. Not mere earning and spending and enjoyment, rather giving us another opportunity, giving us another aspect, another dimension to our life. So rather than simply fully occupied with the mundane materialistic aspects, say one is now concerned about some mental development as well. Now, there we are coming to the virtues, say maintaining a proper conduct. So not stealing, not killing, not stealing, not involving with sexual misconduct, avoiding false speech, avoiding intoxicants. So basically the five precepts. So this becomes very much like the foundation for a ethical, virtuous lay life, and so this becomes a kind of a must. So as you start associating the Buddha's teaching, probably you understand, okay, I am doing something wrong. So my way of life has some kind of flaws. So I better correct them. So likewise, you start having kind of a very positive introspection. So as a result of that, you probably approach, okay, I better correct myself. My bodily behavior has to be corrected. My verbal behavior has to be properly corrected. And probably you are concerned about your mental behavior as well. So therefore, it's a kind of uh, opportunity for us to correct ourselves. So we can't say we are perfect. So there may be flaws in us. We do mistakes, and probably due to a say bad habit, we do various mistakes. Maybe wrong because of some wrong guidance, we do mistakes. Due to bad association, we do various mistakes. So one day, probably once we arrive at the Dhamma, start investigating the Dhamma, so the Dhamma gives us a kind of a better approach, help us to look at from a different angle, and then a kind of self-correction process can be started. So basically, going for the refuge, Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and then taking these precepts honestly and trying to safeguard them, protect them, keep them, actually is an extremely virtuous activity. And if you refer Velama Sutta, there Buddha keep these kind of activities even higher than giving dana, alms to the Buddha and the Sangha. A kind of a orderly arrangement is there, how the merit, the kusala, the merit power is being increased as you are considering various activities. So starting with being generous to the others and maybe giving some dana, and say offering some food to the monks, offering some food to the Buddha and the Sangha. So likewise, Buddha uh, keep them in an orderly fashion so that one can get an idea. So what is the most meritorious activities? And interestingly, he gives a fair emphasis, a very high value to get the refuge in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. So it's very much like you are now having kind of a refuge. It is not that you are stray here and there. Rather, there's a direction to your life. Okay, Buddha is the teacher. So he's a supreme teacher and you believe his enlightenment. And so that you are getting some example from his life, you investigate how he lived and what the kind of an exemplary life that he lived. So you are learning about his way of life. And what is his teaching? Now you are inquiring about his teaching. So what he is talking, what he is preaching. So you are inquiring about it. And there may be Sangha who are emulating it, who are practicing it. So basically living according to the Dhamma. And so that you are also motivated to live according to such life. Say time to time you go to the temple, to the monastery, and you observe Sila. Not only the 5 precepts, you observe 8 precepts, 10 precepts. So likewise, now you have a different dimension to the life. So not only fully occupied with materialistic aspect, but you have some other concern about the spiritual aspects as well. So the virtue, Sila, comes as another area where when we are keeping Sila, the moral conduct, so it minimizes the regrets. So you are truthful, you are virtuous, you are not harming others, you are not stealing, not involved with sexual misconduct, and not taking any intoxicants. So all that help to minimize the regrets. So you know that I am leading a virtuous life. I have no regrets. I am doing best to myself. I am doing best to the others. There is no fear coming from me to the outside. So likewise, you feel content about yourself. You feel you are worthy of even further future development, further spiritual development, and therefore spiritual life is fairly governed or fairly influenced by a virtuous life. Then the third aspect, generosity, chaga, and kind of open-hearted giving, not expecting anything or not having any other plan. Rather, when there is a need, you are giving open-heartedly. And when you give, there are also a kind of a cherishing habits. So rather than you being stingy, so you give, you share your things with the others, your resources with the others. And once you do that, you cherish it. You are happy about it. And once you let go, once you share, and you are happy about it. It's not a forceful sharing. It's not a forceful letting go. You are quite generous, and being generous makes you happy rather than maintaining a very stingy attitude and very selfish kind of a introvert attitude. Say you are giving up, you are sharing, generously donating, and that makes you happy. So that's a different way. Actually, all these things are quite different to the typical mundane economic terms, but we can see what different activities are there for us to be happy. It is not only money, it may be your time, it may be your knowledge, maybe you are simply giving a company a kind of an advice. So many areas are there. So when another person being benefited by your that activity and you feel happy, how they are progressing and how they have come to the Dhamma and how they were able to abandon doubts or abandon whatever their difficulty. So likewise, by helping another person, you can be happy. So that is also contributing towards the future life. And whatever the merit that you acquired by this kind of generous activities actually help for a better future life as well. So this have the contribution coming towards the future life as well. And then the last one actually is onto the wisdom. So this is actually related to vipassana. So, and Buddha put it into a fairly high level. So not a mere reading a book and having some understanding, rather it's a thorough insight about arising and passing away of phenomena. You know, it's called as Udayattagaminiya Panyaya Samannāgato. So you have a thorough understanding about the Dhamma and you are a practitioner. So basically, if we consider all these things, so the wisdom aspect that you here emphasize basically involves a fair amount of meditation. Probably you have practiced mindfulness and practiced certain amount of concentration. And with that mindfulness and concentration, you are able to properly investigate various phenomena. And after a fair amount of investigation, probably one may understand how transient these phenomena are. Whatever the conditioned phenomena, they are subject to arising and they are subject to passing away. They can't stay for a longer time. They can't persist. They are not eternal. So they are quite transient. And that aspect is entirely a meditative understanding, experiential understanding. Experiential understanding about the impermanence, anicca, how things are arising and passing away. So basically, you can see the depth here. We started with simply the faith, having kind of a saddha towards the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and then very much like maintaining a virtuous life. And then to the others, we are maintaining a kind of a generous life. But on the other hand, there is a wisdom aspect as well. So you do practice. So you are a practicing Buddhist. Not only you donate money or simply being generous and say maintaining some kind of faith and maintaining some sila, but also you are concerned about your understanding. So Buddha has mentioned so many things, but how are you going to realize it? Am I working towards that? Am I very much like trying to realize it? So Buddha mentioned, okay, this is suffering, this is impermanent, this is unsatisfactory, this is non-self. I have heard about them, but how about realizing them? How about experientially understanding the impermanence? How about experientially understanding the suffering? How about experientially understanding the non-self? Now, this is another, a fairly deeper area, fairly profound area. So Buddha direct us towards this kind of a wisdom. So we need to understand, okay, this is for lay people, not for monks. So the monk's contribution should be more higher than even this, if you consider the wisdom aspect. So even for the lay people, so Buddha recommends this kind of a wisdom. So this is not a mere book knowledge or learning, rather this is an experiential wisdom, what we are talking here. Insight into arising and passing away of phenomena. This is an experiential knowledge, not mere hearsay. And basically, we can summarize the whole thing. So, with respect to the present life, so Buddha discussed about Utthana Sampada, maintaining persistent effort on daily activities, your office work, your whatever the occupation. So you are maintaining a fairly good effort, and you're not only in the occupation. Say even if assume that you want to build a house. So how much effort that you have to spend? How much persistent effort you have to maintain? Because there may be difficulties, and say whoever the involved people may sometimes give some trouble, and you have to go through them. And there may be financial difficulties, you have to go through them. So fair amount of persistent effort is a must. And whatever you earn, whatever you have built, what you have properly earned, those has to be protected. You can't simply negligent about it. You can't simply careless about it. It has to be protected. Arak Sampada. And then the Kalyana Mittata, having good friendship, and Samajivikata, knowing your earnings and the expenses, having a kind of a balance, not spending, overspending, or not being miserly, not being stingy, rather having a balanced income and expenditure. then the aspects that Buddha invites us to develop, which has fair contribution towards the future life, not only for the present life, is to develop faith, saddha, virtue, the sila, generosity, the chaga, and the wisdom, the panya. So if one having these 8 qualities and you are concerned about these 8, and Buddha assure, you will have a comfortable present life as well as a comfortable future life. So this is the comprehensive answer that Buddha has given to Dīghajānu, who are concerned about having a happy present life as well as a happy, successful future life. So this is the answer that Buddha has given to him. And with that note, I conclude today's Dhamma sermon, and now I open the session for questions. So no questions? All are following the 8 principles?
Um, Bhante, meanwhile, let me ask a question. Okay, I'll ask my question later.
Okay.
Geeta, yeah, you can go unmute yourself and ask the question.
Thank you. Bhante, the question relates to a session from one of your Wednesday sessions, last one, where you said how when you look at the Satipatthana, how it's all nicely categorized. But in practice, there's a lot of overlap happens. I want to clarify, when we look at Chittanupassana, sometimes I come across it as defined as the overall mind state, whether it's lust or anger or whatever, but it sort of says not looking at thought as itself. So I'm not sure. Again, there's overlap, isn't there? The state of mind is, but then there's a lot of thinking that goes with it, whether it's anger or lust or whatever it is. So when it says you're not looking at thoughts themselves, that under Chittanupassana, that's a bit confusing for me. So I just wonder if you could clarify that.
Actually, looking at the mind does not thinking about the mind or thinking about lustful thoughts. Actually, at the beginning, I mean, there are many methods available. Now, say, for example, you are just a beginner to the practice, then there may be a possibility by mere looking at the mind, so you can't stop some unwholesome thoughts, so unwholesome thinking. Say, for example, you are angry with someone and there's a fair amount of anger being generated in the mind, you are burning with that, and you may be able to look at it, you may be able to recognize it, but it doesn't stop by mere recognition. So because your mindfulness and such understanding is not enough, by mere recognizing it, by mere knowing it is not enough to stop it. So you might have to apply various methods to minimize it, because the mindfulness power, the understanding power is not yet well developed. So Satipatthana is not yet thoroughly established. So therefore, you probably have to replace the way of thinking from a different way of thinking. Say, for example, if your mind is angry, probably you divert your attention to a completely different subject. So you are involving in some other activity, you are going for some sports, you are going for a walk. You are trying to very much like forget about what has happened. So you are distracting yourself purposely by involving thinking on an entirely different subject. So it has an opportunity, it has an advantage by doing that, because there may be skillful thinking, or sometimes we call it a proper direction of your mind, yonso manasikara, to a different subject, so that you forget about what has happened, which was causing more trouble, more turbulence in the mind. Now you are trying to keep your attention to something more calm, more relaxed, more kind of a pleasant. So the mind reduces its agitation, reduces its provocation. So thinking can be used skillfully in that level. But when it comes to Satipatthana, so there we are going to another deeper level. Say when you are doing walking practice, for example. So thinking mind may be there, but your attention is drawn to the sensation of the body, sensation of the foot. So more you involve like that, so thinking become less and less, thinking become weaker and weaker, and your bodily awareness becomes stronger and stronger. For the bodily awareness, so for the body awareness to develop, you don't need a thinking mind. Rather, you need a quiet mind. So the more you develop body awareness, more the mind will be quiet. And later, say you are practicing Chittanupassana, so there the idea is you already have gained certain amount of mindfulness, you already have developed certain amount of clear comprehension, you can clearly see about your mind, what's happening there. So all that is already developed to some extent. I'm not saying you are perfected, but you are not a beginner to the mindfulness practice. You are not a beginner to the observing various thoughts. So you can recognize different thoughts, and also you can be mindful. So you are not driven by the past and the future. So you are capable of maintaining the presence of mind. And not only that, you are capable of recognizing distinctly, okay, this is a lustful thought, this is a, say, renunciative thought. So likewise, whatever the wholesome thoughts, unwholesome thoughts, you are capable of recognizing as it is, without contributing, without being tempted by it or without driven by it, you are able to recognize it. And at that level, you are working at a different level, different state in a way. So you are trying to figure out, okay, how all these wholesome thoughts appear and then disappear. How all these unwholesome thoughts appear and then disappear. You're not giving marks to any side. You're not favoring the wholesome side here. Rather, you know, all the wholesome states are impermanent. They come and go. All the good ideas are coming and going. They are not permanent. All the unwholesome thoughts also coming and going. They are also not permanent. So you see this common characteristics, how impermanent they are. Doesn't matter whether they are wholesome or unwholesome, they are impermanent. So likewise, you are coming to another level of understanding in the Satipatthana. So it is not that we are promoting thinking. As a result of this, we further and further calming down the mind, relaxing the mind, quietening the mind. So these things are there. I don't know whether I gave an answer to your question. If not, you can further explain your question.
Sort of, Bhante. I'm understanding that it is we are looking with Chittanupassana at a different level. The thought content itself is not important. The content
Exactly. Yes.
of, but
You're
it's
not
the
driven
whole
by the
nature.
thought. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'll think a bit more. If I need clarification, I'll put my hand up again, Bhante. I'll think about it for the moment.
Right.
Thank you.
Bhante, there's a question on the chat. Following for the last question, is it correct to be mindful, recognize of a mind with anger, so there is a knower and the awareness only?
Anchor. And it's with anger. It has to be an anchor, maybe. Recognize of a mind with anger, our mind with anger.
Yeah,
So
mind
there is
with anger.
and the awareness only. Yeah, we can say so. So very much like this knowing quality is apart from anger. Anger is one thing, the knowing quality of the mind is a different thing. So you can know anger, you can know lust, you can know aversion, you can know regret. So likewise, the knowing quality is quite above these conditioned states. So anger, lust, hatred, delusion, and many all different mental states, they are conditioned phenomena. But there is above all, that's a knowing capacity that we as human beings share. So there's a conscious knowing. So now we are promoting that conscious knowing. So you can consciously know when the anger is present in the mind. You can consciously know when the lust is present in the mind. You can consciously know there is a agitation present in the mind. You can consciously know when there is a jealousy available in the mind. You can consciously know there is a loving kindness thought available in the mind. So the conscious knowing is above all in a way. It's like a hood. You can look at what is happening under the ground. So under you, what's happening? So you are very much like risen up to another level. So this conscious knowing. So in the sampajanakari hoti. So the idea is that so you can consciously know how these things are happening. Now, say for example, when we consider kayanupassana, we can consciously know when in-breath is happening. You can consciously know when the out-breath is happening. So the breathing is a bodily activity, but knowing capacity is different and it is available. You can consciously know, oh, now there's an in-breath, now there's an out-breath. Similarly, you can consciously know, now there's a pleasurable feeling, now there's a painful feeling. Similarly, you can consciously know, now there is a lustful thought, now there's a, say, loving kindness thought, like that.
Bhante, just adding to that same question, although the anger is unwholesome, knowing that you have an anger, and isn't that like a wholesome? And then you try to get rid of it. Isn't that wholesome? You.
Actually, now at this level, you are not trying to push it away. Rather, this knowing capacity slowly disengage you from anger. So you are no more anger. You are not identifying with anger. Instead, anger is a different phenomena. It's a conditioned phenomena. It is not you. It is not yours. So it's a kind of a passenger who has get onto a bus. So why the driver thinks, okay, this passenger is me, myself, or belongs to me. It's a passenger.
Mhm.
So he get on from one halt and then he spend some time within the bus, and then next halt he get down and he has paid some money to travel by the bus, and then that's done. So you are not bothered. Likewise, so time to time different mental states are arising in the mind, and you can look at it from a different angle by stepping out of it, and then you know, okay, kind of a disengaged observation, distant observation is there. You're not participating into the picture, you are not contributing to the anger, and you are not identifying with the anger. So anger is merely anger. It will come and it will go. It will arise and it will pass away. So all these are conditioned phenomena. All are sankata. All are conditioned phenomena.
So basically, Bhante, mindfulness and wisdom both play a huge role there. If you're not
Exactly.
mindful, so you carry over with like your anger, and you come to an
Exactly.
proliferation, and it become a like. So as soon as if you are mindful, you can catch it right away, and then
Exactly.
you understand, oh, this is like a thought. It just comes and go. And
Yes.
so that way of like a correct path of thinking, and towards your getting the wisdom, and wisdom help you all the time, just resolve that, coming out of the situation.
Yes, exactly. Actually, if we are not mindful, whatever the anger arising can consume you, can absorb you, and you being a victim of that.
Mhm.
But once the mindfulness is established, we disengage from that. So the anger becomes just a phenomena. So anger is another phenomena. It's a conditioned phenomena, and you are not anger. So you are disengaged from it. It's another phenomena arising and passing away. So you can know it. You can be a silent observer. But anyway, another interesting thing is there is no observer either. So there are thoughts, but there is no thinker.
Mhm.
That's
That's
a
true.
very interesting phenomena also.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we are telling like this, probably someone might think, okay, so is there an observer? Is there is a thinker? But interesting thing is there are thoughts, but there is no thinker. Knowing capacity is there, but knowing capacity is not an agent. Knowing capacity is not a self. That's very beautiful.
That's really good way to practice. There was another question. So getting back to the question I wanted to ask, like when you mentioned like that present life and the future life for basically practices, and is any like all this has to be kind of a balance, or like some have a like a kind of a more prominence as an example. If you say the future life, I feel like having developing panya is more helpful than having practicing like faith, virtue, and generosity. I'm not saying that we should not have like, but isn't that like a wisdom get higher prominence, priority?
Actually, yeah. The thing is, this also have to be balanced. The spiritual life, Buddha mentioned there are 5 aspects, 5 supports. The Anuggahita Sutta. One is the kind of sila, then the knowledge, some understanding, then the discussion, and then the samadhi, the concentration, and then the wisdom. So there are many aspects. So we can't simply say, okay, only this particular aspect has to be given the prominence. So I would like to say there are many faculties, many areas. Those are to be pay attention time to time. For example, say saddha. So the saddha has to be balanced with the wisdom. Now assume that there is a life who are so concerned about the wisdom, but there is any kind of a saddha. So it is a very dry kind of a attitude where the mind doesn't have any happiness. It is very dry and there is no lubricant. And so mind doesn't have any happiness, it's no joy, no sympathy towards some others, and no compassion and all that. So those are also have to be included in the practice. So not mere wisdom, the wisdom has to be balanced with the faith. Then the balance of the mind is there. Otherwise, it can be an imbalanced mind. On the other hand, now say the sila. So if you grasp the sila, then again it's a troublesome. But sila also has to be balanced, has to have some kind of a balance. Generosity. And if you are too much generous and you don't know what your limit, you don't know how much you earn, and then again there could be an issue. So likewise, so all these aspects have to be considered carefully. We can't say that we can omit anything, and fair amount of attention, fair amount of emphasis has to be given to each aspect. And our life is a kind of balancing of all these different qualities in a daily basis, in a way, in a case by case basis.
Okay, Bhante. Thank you. Thank you very much. Especially like I think having practicing Sattara, what do you call Brahma Vihara, it's also like really important, for like current life, present life, as well as for the future life as well, right?
Yes, exactly. So that's why, so having Brahma Viharas help us to have a more virtuous, more compassionate livelihood for ourselves as well as the others. And on the other hand, practicing Samatha Vipassana takes us to another level to deeply see the reality.
All 3 places works really well. So thank you so much, Bhante, much better to you it's a really wonderful and valuable Dhamma talk today.
Thank you very much, Bhante, and everybody.
Yeah, Thero and Sarnai.
Thero and Sarnai, Bhante.